World War I. The Nazi invasion of Poland. Pearl Harbor. The Cuban Missile Crisis. The Gulf War in Kuwait. 9/11. And the current North Korean nuclear issue. The big question: how do countries, in this case the United States, respond to international crisis using the organizational process model? Think of a country as a conglomerate, in this case the United States, with many smaller individual entities that help run the country. At the top of any country there is a leading force, which for our case is the president. The president is in charge of pulling the levers when crisis strikes. They discern, with the help of advisors, what needs to be done to start solving and ending the crises. So let's outline this entire theory. Graham Allison's organizational process model theory, a breakdown. Graham Allison, an American political scientist and professor at Harvard University. In 1969, he contributed to the analysis of the decision-making model during the Cuban Missile Crisis. The United States is not a singular actor. There are many sub-actors or organizations that help solve big issues and crises. So first, we have the Executive Office of the President of the United States. The President leads the executive branch of the federal government and is the Commander-in-Chief of the United States Armed Forces. Under him, there are, in this case, three main branches. The CIA, the Central Intelligence Agency. Their primary mission is to collect, evaluate, and disseminate foreign intelligence. Next, we have the Department of Defense. They are responsible for providing military forces that are needed to deter war and protect the security of the United States. Next, we have the Department of State, and they advise the President and lead the country in foreign policy issues. When an issue comes up, these organizations bring their SOPs to the table. An SOP is a standard operating procedure, meaning these organizations use procedures and plans they have previously drawn up to try and fit to a new issue at hand. Of course, these procedures don't always fit these situations, and only after the failure of an SOP do organizations get a chance to change them. Now let's see how organizational process model fits in with the 9/11 response.
The Vice President would become the chief architect of the war on terror. There would be new laws enhancing executive power, robust action at home and abroad, and above all, secrecy.
We'll have to work toward the dark side, if you will. We're going to spend time in the shadows in the intelligence world. A lot of what needs to be done here will have to be done quietly, without any discussion, using sources and methods that are available to our intelligence agencies.
All that day, Rumsfeld and Vice President Cheney were in close contact with the President. They argued there would have to be retaliation, not just against bin Laden, but also against nations that may have helped al-Qaeda, nations like Iraq.
Good evening. We will make no distinction between the terrorists who committed these acts and those who harbor them.
CIA versus the Department of Defense. How the CIA and the Department of Defense fought for the spotlight during the fight on terror. The CIA was ready with an SOP, standard operating procedure, within just a few days of 9/11 to deliver to the President. This would later hinder Donald Rumsfeld and Dick Cheney's plans.
But on the night of 9/11, out at CIA headquarters, George Tenet was all business, pushing hard to prepare a counterattack.
We had been working on this for years. Where everybody else is looking for their maps on Afghanistan,
We were ready to rock, ready to roll. And it really took momentum when George Tenet said, okay, update the plan, have it ready by tomorrow.
They come blazing forward with a fully architected plan. We are going to spread this over 80 countries. We are going to go at it with this 8-pronged attack.
Of course, the CIA's track record wasn't in their favor, especially in the eyes of Dick Cheney.
But Cheney had no faith in the CIA.
I think there's one thing that influences him, at least in my conversations. He remembered, as clearly as I remembered, how wrong intelligence had been in 1991.
They had been wrong about the collapse of the Soviet Union, the Iranian Revolution, Saddam's invasion of Kuwait, and more.
Thank you all. Thank you very much.
At the end of all of this deliberation, the president says, "Thank you all very much. This has been a very good discussion. I'm going to think about all of this on Sunday, and I'll call you together Monday and tell you what I've concluded."
The stakes for Cheney and Rumsfeld were high. If the CIA prevailed, they could lose control of how and where the war on terror would be fought.
And Monday, we all assemble in the cabinet room, and the president lays down about 12 decisions, just like that, machine gun fashion.
What did he say?
Well, of course, the thing that stands out in my memory, because it hit me vividly, was he said, "I want CIA in there first."
It was a body blow to Cheney and Rumsfeld. Rumsfeld's military machine would be taking a back seat to the CIA and George Tenet.
Like the clip said, this was a huge setback for what Rumsfeld had set up for the Department of Defense. Sadly, that had to take the sideline while the CIA came out on top for this mission.
And I think that's a bitter pill for the Pentagon. This great historical moment. They're public servants, after all. In some ways, they wait their whole life to be called to duty at a moment like this. And the Pentagon is largely on the sidelines, watching. And watching, of all people, the CIA. Whew.
After a whole month had passed since the beginning of the mission, the CIA ran into a major roadblock. The CIA needed troops deployed into key areas to bring down the enemy, but Rumsfeld never came through with them.
NSC meeting. The CIA had been complaining Rumsfeld was dragging his feet in Afghanistan. It was said Rumsfeld didn't like taking orders from the CIA.
There was a lot of jealousy that Tenet had a leg up, and Rumsfeld was about 3 yards back.
Rumsfeld went to the president, said, "CIA has to work for me, or this isn't going to work."
This issue of personal gain and control of the mission begins to move into another part of Allison's model, bureaucratic process model, which is another part of theory, how states react to international crisis. In conclusion, Allison's organizational process model can be used to explain how countries systematically respond to international crisis. With the help of a system of smaller entities, a country can get a lot done to respond to such atrocities. And the United States response to 9/11 is a great example of such.